Good afternoon, welcome to Rundlii Gaming. So we're going to be doing another video of how to play. This particular one will be Shadows Over Camelot. It is a kind of congested game. There's a lot of stuff going on at all times. There's the element of a possible traitor. There's not always a traitor like some games will have. But a lot of times that will breed the idea that there is definitely a traitor amongst the group and therefore cause a lot of issues with it. What we're actually going to do is kind of go around the board itself, kind of teach you how to play the game itself, and kind of work from there as far as what's going on with everything, and kind of just kind of an overview of how to play the game itself. That way, if you do get the game, you'll have a pretty good idea as far as how the game plays itself, and then you could probably see for yourself if this might be the game that you might be interested in playing. It depends on the group, really. Some groups really enjoy this game, whereas others not so much. Now what's going to happen is at the start of the game you're going to get a particular hero of the round table. Now they all have different special abilities. The special abilities kind of break a specific rule. Like for example, King Arthur being the leader of the group. Once per turn he may exchange one white card face down with another knight of his choice. He can't really say for sure which white card it is, but he can basically trade those cards over to different people to kind of let them know, to kind of aid them in a particular quest. Now, once you're given one of these particular leaders here, there's Sir Galahad, Sir Kay, Sir Tristan, Sir Gawain, Sir Palademus, and Sir Percival. I'm probably sure I butchered some of those names, but what they're trying to do over the course of the game is actually try to essentially just win the game, which is, I'm sure, a bad definition as far as how to play the game. But doing so, you get to do things like rescue, find the Holy Grail and claim that. We also have we have the Grail over here. We have Excalibur over here. We have Sir Lancelot's armor over here. There's also the fight with the Black Knight, which doesn't reap any kind of benefit, but it's just something that's kind of ongoing, is you can go out there and duel the Black Knight. You have the Pyxis Actions, which are these two groups here, which they're basically invading Camelot during the entire game. You also have the round table itself, which is here, and then you have the catapults, which is the siege itself that's on Camelot. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and you're not even for certain if everyone on your team is actually on your team. Because what's going to happen after this is you will then get one of these green cards, and basically this will be your role in the game as to whether or not you're loyal or you're a traitor. Now, as you can see, there's only one traitor card, and then there are 7 loyal cards. So even if you played a full game of 7 players, which will be, you have a chance of having everybody loyal. Now, there is a chance for that traitor, but there's also a chance that there's not a traitor, even if you do have a full 7 players. You cannot have 8 players, so therefore, it's not ever a guarantee that there, is not going to be a traitor amongst the group. So what we're going to do is kind of work around the table here and kind of go over different things you can do within the game itself. Now, the reason it's hard to decipher whether or not someone may be good or bad is because every round, each player will be doing a good thing and a bad thing. Now, the character sheets themselves are actually really good about explaining these things. They'll actually also tell you the different powers, so if you achieve, like, say, the Holy Grail, the Excalibur. The Excalibur will help you in combat battle. So if you're in any kind of combat battle out here, it'll give you a +1 on that. And you can also discard your Excalibur in order to get rid of a black card, which will come up on this deck as well. Also, the Holy Grail. Any dying knight who drinks from the Grail gains 4 life points. Discard after use. So pretty much you can use this to heal someone if they've been taking a lot of life and sacrificing towards achieving things, which you'll see where that comes into play a lot more very shortly when we explain more of the game. Lancelot's armor. Anytime you must draw 1 black card, draw 2 instead. play one and place the other back under the draw pile. So this kind of helps you figure out if you're going to draw a black card. You can kind of decipher, okay, is this one I actually want to play, or do I want to play a different one? So sometimes that'll be helpful for that. Some other things too is your starting life total will be 4. You're actually going to use the dice here. These are actually just for life total. So normally you would start out at 4. And we'll actually go ahead and lay out some dice for each of these people here. Just so we can kind of give an example as far as our different characters here and how the game plays. So as you can see, we have 1 dice for each person. So you have Percival, King Arthur, we have Sir Tristan, and then we have Sir Kay. These are basically the 4 that we're playing in this particular game. We're not going to worry about their special abilities as far as explaining the game, but pretty much each of these can very easily factor into how the game is played itself. For example, with Sir Tristan, for you, departing from the round table is a free move. Normally for anyone else, it takes a full action to do so. So each of these will have different benefits, but we're not going to actually use them as far as the example on this. We're just going to kind of give an overview of how everything plays as if you were pretty much a character without any actual abilities. Alright, so at this point, so each character now has to do a good action and a bad action. Now, King Arthur is always the one that starts first, and for the use of this particular video, we're going to start them all off as loyal. Statistically, it's a very good chance that they're all going to be loyal anyway. It's just that possibility that they may not be. So at this point, first you'll do 1 bad action. Now your different possible bad actions is draw a black card. So you can take a card from this black deck, which can be, normally everything in there is going to be bad, but then some of them are really bad. So it kind of depends on what's drawn, but some of them can be really, really bad for you. The other thing is we can add a siege engine to Camelot. You can get up to 12 siege engines. If you get 12 siege engines, you automatically lose the game regardless of what's happened up to this point. If you ever make it to 12 siege engines, the game ends, you lose. Or you can take 1 life point off of yourself. So you could just take 1 for the team and lose a life point. Some heroic actions. You can move to a new quest. So you can move from anywhere you're currently located at to any other quest on this table. Now, there are some small restrictions, though not a lot. The Black Knight can only have 1 person at any given time, as well as Sir Lancelot's armor. These 2, you can only have 1 person at a time. A lot of these you can also have multiple people working on it otherwise. So if you want to have 4 people working on the Grail, you could do that, but some of these other quests might be suffering due to that. But sometimes it also helps you knock out those particular quests particularly quick if you get everyone working on the same thing relatively quick. So at that point, so we did the first heroic action, which is move to a new quest. You can also perform the quest heroic action. Now, what we're going to do is go over each of these heroic actions of what you do on each of these locations. So, starting off with the Grail, which will be on this side here. If you go to the Grail, so let's say I spent a move to move to the Grail. I then end my turn because that was actually my action. Next turn, I could actually drop a Grail, and that would contribute towards the Grails that I currently have on this location. Once it fills with good Grails, it will be completed. You found the Grail, and then you win that particular Grail. So what we're doing is I'm going to go and fill up some of these real quick, because we're going to have some more examples of other stuff very soon. So let's say this is where it's at. That'll be mostly used for the future when we get to the bad cards. Next thing is we're going to play one special white card. Now, certain heroes can actually break this rule a little bit, but different special white cards will be kind of beneficial to the group, depending on what you play. So for example, heroism. Place on the quest of your choice, add one white or black sword to that quest victory or defeat. So if I played this on a quest and it were to succeed, then we get an extra white sword. If it fails, we get an extra black sword. This is one of those things could be factored in and could be used by the actual trader if needed. And then if it fails, there'd be an extra black sword on that. Convocation. Knights may return to Camelot at once. The knights gathered, draw, and share white cards equal to their number. So if we pull, in this case, all 4 people back to the round table, we would draw white cards equal to that, so it'd be 4, and then we can split them amongst the group as we see fit. Piety is another one. Gain 3 life points, or each other knight gains 1 life point. So you will not actually benefit on this if you play it. However, if you have 7 different knights at the table, it might be more beneficial to give everyone else a life point rather than 3 to yourself. In some cases, 3 to yourself could be very useful as well. Next thing is we're going to continue on with some of the quest heroic actions because we only did the Grail so far. And I do apologize, I forgot to actually do each of the other locations as well. Alright, so at the round table, you have a couple different options here. The first one is you can either draw 2 cards from the round table. Basically, it's, you draw 2 more, add these to your hand. Or you can fight catapults. And how catapults are going to be fought is you'll discard a set number. Let's say we discarded 7. So this is a fight card and this is a fight card, because you can only discard fight cards for this particular thing. So the number on this one is 7. Now to win, you have to roll below 7. A tie is not good enough for the round table as far as the rulebook states. So what you actually roll is a d8. With the d8, in this particular case, I rolled a 5. I needed a 6 or less, so I will succeed. So generally you want to drop a lot of points on this in order to, actually kill a catapult. And all that does is it kills one of these catapults out here, which is mostly just a means of helping destroy some of the catapults that will keep coming up for you. The next thing is the Pyxis Actions. They're pretty much the same thing. They're just 2 different things that are counting up as we play. What will happen is some of these black cards will actually have like Mercenaries, and then they have specific ones like Pyxis Actions. Now, if you get a pick, you would just put one of the picks down, and once it hits 4 picks, it will trigger, and then you lose that particular battle. With Mercenaries, you actually get to place one or the other. So let's say with Mercenaries, it's kind of picked or Saxon. So I can choose to put one over here if we don't have very many, or if we're close to completing this one already, then maybe we want to throw one over there. It gives us a little more options. And then there's one actually for the Saxons themselves. So there's another separate card also. The next thing is a Black Knight. Now, how this battle is triggered is the good side is wanting to get 2 doubles. So what you're going to see on a lot of these white cards in most, for the Pyxis Actions, I forgot to mention one other thing. In order to complete it, you're supposed to put these in order. It's kind of like getting it straight. You want to drop the 1 first, then drop a 2, then drop a 3, then drop a 4, then drop a 5. Once you've dropped each of these in order, you will have completed this. And we'll do rewards and failures pretty soon as well. Mostly just kind of covering what the actual locations do. The Black Knight, as I mentioned, is the next one. In this case, you need 2 pairs. So you have AA, BB, and this is how they usually write them on the boards itself. Is usually they'll put like a variable in it, or they'll put a number. So if you need a specific number, they usually specify the number. If you need like pairs or triples, then they'll usually just write down letters for you. So once you have 2 pairs on this side, the event will trigger. Or if you have 4 on this side of the Black Knights, it will trigger. Once it triggers, whoever has the highest number will succeed. So for example, if there is a 2-2 to 3-3, which comes up to 10 total, and there's 11 on the Black Knights, but Black Knights only have 3 cards, the Black Knights will still win because they have higher points. But let's say if those Knights only had 9 points, and the good guys have 10, the good guys would win this, and then they would get the benefits for that. The next location will be Excalibur. This one's a good place just to throw junk cards at. If you have a lot of low fight cards, or if you don't have much else going for you in your hand, what you do is for your action, you discard a card from your hand, and then it pushes it 1 towards the good side. Next turn you can discard another one, and move it to the good side. Discard another, move it to the good side. And this is something that as you progress, once it finally arrives at the very end there, it will succeed, and then someone that's actually at this location will get Excalibur for you. And that's basically how Excalibur works. Now, Sir Lancelot's armor, as you can see with this, is going to require A, B, B. So we basically need a full house. 3 of a kind, 2 of a kind. There is 5 spots for Sir Lancelot, and this is actually a split card. So, because what happens is once Sir Lancelot either fails or succeeds, it flips over, and then you fight a dragon. So what you're going to get is a card that looks kind of like this. It's hard to see, I'm sure, on the camera, but on one side you'll have what looks to be a knight, the other side you have a dragon. Now depending on what side we're on, for example with this, Lancelot's only worth 1, whereas the dragon's worth 5. So if you're fighting on the dragon side, he's worth quite a bit more. Now this rule is going to be the same for both of these. You have 2 options when you draw this card from your black deck. When you draw it, you look at it, you say, well, do I want to show the group and put it face up? Oh, in this case, the Black Knight over here. So if I turn it face up, everyone can see, okay, this particular card, it's pretty low, so I think we'll do fine. Or you can turn it face down. Now no one actually knows what it is except for you that drawn it. This does help with the trader aspect because traders want to have limited information. Now there is a benefit of doing this, however. If you put it face down, you are able to... so if you put it face down, you get an extra white card. So basically, if I put it face down like that, I draw 1 more card. Which will help kind of fill up your hand, especially when you're out and you're not anywhere near the round table. It's hard to actually get white cards. That might help you complete other quests. So a lot of times, it's more beneficial not to tell anyone. Usually our personal rule, though I don't know how it's actually done in the book itself, I'd have to probably reread it, is that we are not allowed to tell anyone what the specific number is, but we can tell people if it's low or high. The reason for this is that if there is a trader, it kind of gives a little more benefit to the trader himself. Because let's say because what happens is once this triggers, let's say if there's 4 of these knights, you actually would shuffle that after it fails or succeeds. Now if this person over here kept saying, well, I dropped a 3, a 3, 3, and a 5, and then you flip these over and you see a 7, 5, 3, and a 1, you know that he was kind of lying. So we usually do, well, it's kind of a low number, it's kind of a high number, and just kind of work from there. The other spot will be again, this is another option. You can go, well, I'm going to put it face down, and I draw a white card, or I put it face up, and we at least know what we're dealing with as a group. Now that's the different heroic actions you can do at the table here. The next thing we're going to go over, so we've already talked about play 1 special white card. Next action you can do is discard 3 identical cards to gain 1 life. So you can discard, let's say, 3 of these 2s for fight, and then you get a life point for it. So basically you spend your turn to get health by doing so. Perhaps if you're getting close to dying, maybe that's a very good way of doing it, or if you just have a bunch of junk cards that you'll never need, it might be another beneficial way of doing that. Also, you can accuse another knight. If you feel that they may be a traitor, you have the ability to accuse someone that they themselves are a traitor, but this can only occur once there has been 6 siege engines or 6 swords. You cannot do that prior to this particular time. Alright, so that is the overview of all your good actions. Now we're going to go back to some of the bad actions, because what can happen here is the different things that will trigger much of these heroic actions you're kind of fighting against. And I've pretty much grabbed a bunch of cards here to kind of give a good idea of what kind of stuff you're going to be playing against. Now some of these you've already seen earlier in the video, so of course we have our Black Knight and our Lancelot Dragon cards. So these will be the 2 fight cards that we were dealing with earlier, so there's a chance you could draw these. There are the Pyxis Actions, so these are also a chance, so you could either drop stuff here or you could drop stuff here. Now you have Excalibur, that whenever this comes up, it moves Excalibur back 1. So this kind of pushes it back towards the bad side. If it arrives all the way at the bad side, you lose Excalibur, can no longer achieve it. This tile itself flips over, and then some other stuff occurs after that, which we'll go over as well. Despair. We will actually grab another one of those. Alright, so if you drew Despair, you would actually put that in any empty spots from the right side, moving to the left. So in this case, let's say this was all filled up here with good ones, except for the one spot which we never actually filled up yet. And so when we drew a black card, we ended up getting another one of these Despairs. Now let's say the next turn I drew another Despair. Right now it's full. There's no spots. So what they're actually going to do is break each other. So you're going to take this good one and cancel out this bad one. So it's kind of like a negative and a positive. The Grails are always basically +1, and the Despairs are -1. So basically these two will cancel each other. They'll both go to the discard pile. So now you have a gap here, and then as you keep drawing Despairs, it'll keep breaking them. So that's the Despairs and Excalibur. So those are a couple cards that could come up. Morgana, she's kind of a painful person to deal with. She does have different effects, so this is not the only one. There's actually 6, 7, 8 Morganas. On this particular one, each knight immediately loses 1 life point. So pretty much with this, everyone at the table loses a life. So if you're down to 1 life, this could kill you. Dark Forest. No further Grail card may be played until a quest is victoriously completed. So if this were to come up, it's also a very bad one. You could put it over here, and no one can actually play any more Grails until someone completes a quest somewhere else. In this case, Vivian. No further Merlin cards can be played until a quest is victoriously completed. And these are going to be things that will continuously come up. There's a lot of really random stuff that could make or break the group. And let's see if we can find another. So another Morgana. In this case, immediately add 2 siege engines around Camelot. So if she pops up, there's going to be 2 more siege engines that hit the table here. So these are different cards that could very easily cause problems for the group. And so basically you're playing against the board itself as compared to playing against other players. So it kind of gives you some element of working together, but you also have that possibility that there's always a traitor amongst the group. You can't really trust everybody, and there's a lot of secret information. For example, you cannot see the other player's hands. So sometimes, a downside of this game is that sometimes bad play can also result in people thinking you're a traitor. So let's say if you do something that is at a disadvantage to the group, sometimes you may be looked at as a traitor amongst the group because of that. Because you're kind of limited, you can't say, well, here's my hand, what's my best action? So there is a slight downside with that. Now what we're going to do is go over some information as far as how to win the game and lose the game. So pretty much what will happen here, we went over all the quests. There is one more thing you can do with your knight as well. You can also lose a point of life in order to perform one more good action. So let's say if you want to drop another, do another heroic action over here at Excalibur to help complete it a little bit quicker, you could spend a life, discard a card, move it again. And that's in conjunction with your normal action. So essentially for one extra life point, you can basically exhaust yourself in order to get some extra stuff done. So pretty much at this point, the different ways of losing the game. If you get 12 siege engines, as we mentioned, you will lose the game automatically. If you ever have 7 black swords, there are 12 spots at this table. If you ever hit 7 black swords, you lose the game. All knights are dead except the traitor accepted. So like, if everyone at the table dies, then the game ends, the knights lose. The traitor being the exception on this particular one, but again, if everyone dies, the game ends. So how we're going to do the next part is kind of going over the different rewards and disadvantages of each of these locations. Because as I mentioned, you're trying to complete these different quests. If you do complete them, you get certain benefits. If you don't complete them, you get certain disadvantages. So again, we'll start off with the Grail here. If you succeed, you will get the Grail. You will get 3 of these swords. There'll be 3 white swords, because these are actually double-sided. So, like the white side, then you have the black side. So if you fail a mission, you get these black swords. If you succeed in the mission, you get these white swords. Now remember, there are only 12 spots on this, so once you fill up the table, the game will end as well. If it's 7 black swords on that table, the knights lose. So if you succeeded with a Grail, you get 3 white swords, which is a pretty good amount. That's actually going to be the highest amongst everything at the table, but it is a fairly difficult and lengthy process to get the Grail. You also will draw 7 white cards. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At which point you can reveal it to the group as a whole. And so let's say if red and blue are both at the Grail when this completes. So they'll have these 7 cards that they can split amongst themselves. So first off is that they get the Grail. One of them can choose who gets the Grail. So let's say King Arthur decides he's going to take the Grail. Now you get 3 white swords, which go to the table. So at this point, you are already 1/4 of the way to completing the game. And then you split these 7 cards however you want. In this case, you have a Grail, a fight card of a 2, a fight card of a 3, 2 fight cards of 5s, a Merlin, reinforcements. And I'll go over what Merlin is. It's just another special white card, which has some pretty neat effects as well. Then reinforcements, which is another special white card, where either, if I use this, I can draw 4 cards, or let each of the other knights draw 1 white card. So in a bigger game, it's probably more beneficial to help everybody. If it might be like a 4-player game, maybe the 4 cards to me might be more beneficial, but sometimes that might be what a trader would do as well. So at this point, then they would split this. Lastly, everybody that's at the Grail right now will gain a life. So at this particular location, King Arthur and then Sir Palamedes will both gain 1 life. And then lastly, they will be sent back to Camelot, to the round table. Now once they've completed this particular board is going to flip over, and it will give us actually something new that we have to deal with from then on. Now what this actually is anytime there's a despair that comes up, which again it comes from the black deck here, you'll put down another siege engine. So this basically will push a little bit harder towards the group losing by siege engine. So you might have to focus a little bit more effort on that whenever you're dealing with it, because now you have to deal with more siege engines possibly popping up due to the black deck here. So let's say they went ahead and split their white cards here. And so each player now has several more cards in their hand. So those two basically split the 7s. Maybe one took 3, maybe the other one took 4 cards. Next, so as I mentioned, that'll be the repercussion from here on. Let's say if this were to have failed, you'll have a red box over here, which would give you 3 black swords, and then everyone that's currently on that quest right now would lose 1 life. So there are dire consequences for if you can't succeed this mission. Then anyone that's at that location is going to take some loss of life, and also black swords will then arrive at this as well. Once that occurs, no one can get a Grail anymore. It still flips over. Once it flips over, this now is active. Anytime a despair comes up, it will then trigger Catapult. Next, we have the Pyxis Actions. They're pretty much the same thing as far as most things are concerned. If you succeed, you get a white sword, 4 white cards you split amongst everyone at that location, and 1 hit point to each person. If you fail, there will be 1 black sword, 1 loss of life for everyone that's there, and 2 siege engines. For the Black Knight, 1 white sword if you succeed, 3 white cards that you split amongst the person that's there, because you can only have 1 person at this location, and plus 1 life for everyone at that location, which again is that 1 person. If you fail, it'll be 1 black sword, 1 loss of life for that person that's there. If no one's there, then it doesn't hurt anybody. Another big one is the Excalibur. So if you succeed, there's 2 white swords. You split 7 cards amongst the group that's at this location. Everyone at that location gains 1 life, and then you can also take Excalibur, and one of the people that's at that location can claim it. If you fail, you'll get 2 black swords, and then you also lose a life for anyone that's at that location. Lastly is Lancelot's armor. If you succeed, you get 1 white sword, 4 white cards, split amongst the 1 person that comes here, because you can only have 1 at this location. Everyone at that location, which is that 1 person, gets 1 life, and then they also get Lancelot's armor. If you fail it, you get a black sword and a loss of life for that person that's at this location, if there's someone there. Once it succeeds or fails, this will flip over. Same thing with Lancelot's armor. So these are all the boards that'll be flipped over. The big board will never be flipped, but these 3 do. So once any of these 3 have passed or succeeded, then each of these will trigger a little bit differently. So it's kind of similar to the Grail. If Excalibur is here, then anytime a bad Excalibur shows up, there will be another siege engine. So again, it furthers the idea that the more black cards you draw, the more siege engines that might come up as well. Then you have the dragon, which as you can see is AAA, BBB, CCC. So there's a lot of cards at this location, but this also can have any number of players as well. It takes 5 dragon cards for this to fail or to trigger, but then it also needs 3 pairs for it to also trigger. So again, let's say if you got 3 triples here and all 5 cards fill up, the event triggers whoever has the highest will win the encounter. So at that point, that is pretty much everything as far as missions and stuff go. Merlin, he has a few different abilities. You can spend him as a special white card, and then he can remove 1 siege engine. So basically, you can use him to get rid of a siege engine, or the last standard black card played on quest of your choice Yeah, so, or you can remove one last standard black card played on quest of your choice. So if there's a standard black card that comes up and were to hit a particular quest, you can use this to stop that as well. Basically, you just discard it and it does that. Or you can play 3 Merlin cards immediate, or collectively. So out of the 4 people that are currently sitting at the table here, 3 of us can pitch in a Merlin to get rid of a special black card. So as you remember, the Morgana, the Vivian, any of those really bad black cards that can hurt a lot of people, we can each chip in, a Merlin to stop that particular one from occurring. At the start of the game, each player will start out with 1 Merlin face up on the table, and then they'll start out with 5 cards, I believe it was, in your hand, which can consist of more Merlins, but there's not a lot in the deck. I think there's like 7 or 8 total amongst this entire deck, including a lot of what you see here in the piles around. Otherwise, the components and stuff are really neat. Some of these could probably use some painting, but all in all, even without, there's a lot of detail on it. Like you'll actually see like these little catapult things. So as you're filling up the catapults out here, then it will, once it completely fills up out there, you'll end up losing or winning, depending on what the situation is. Then you have like the Pyxis Actions. They have like axes and shields, and the other ones have like these swords and smaller shields. But as a whole, that is actually the game. So as I mentioned, the round table itself will end once the entire table is full, or there are 7 black swords. Once the table's full, at that point, if there's a traitor, they would reveal themselves. If there is a traitor, then he will end up flipping over some of the white swords, and therefore he could easily swing the game back into the favor of the traitor. Now, some things to kind of go over here too is that, let's say if a player was found out to be the traitor, which does occur sometimes, but it's really hard to actually tell if there's a traitor. They can still do quite a bit of stuff here as well. So, for example, let's say that the knight who accused you that you are a traitor, they will get to flip they get to add 1 white sword to the table here, if they are correct. If they are wrong, I believe you flip a white sword over to a black sword. So you actually lose one of your swords that you currently earned. You don't just throw down another black sword. So it's a very painful thing to just to start accusing people. You are now, at this point, playing as a traitor once you've been accused. So let's say if you as the watcher was accused in this particular instance on this one, at this point you will remove your person from the table. So let's say if you were King Arthur. King Arthur was the traitor in this particular one, which has occurred before. It's definitely not that far-fetched, though it does sound kind of weird that the leader of the entire over Camelot itself was the traitor out of the whole thing. You no longer have a life total, so you cannot take damage anymore. You discard all your white cards because you'll no longer need them. If you have Excalibur or the Holy Grail, you remove them from the game. So this is also another benefit of being the traitor as well. Let's say if a lot of people helped you get the Grail, and you talked the group into giving you the Grail instead of someone else, and then you became the traitor, the group no longer has access to Excalibur or the Holy Grail. So those could be lost in the game due to that. With Lancelot's armor, you still get the benefit from that. So if you do have Lancelot's armor as the traitor, you still gain benefit from having that. The game turn for the traitor is first you can taunt the knight. So you pick 1 white card at random from the hand of a knight of your choice, and then you can make them discard it. So let's say if you know that this person is getting close to completing this quest, I can choose that person and go, well, I'm going to make you discard 1 of your cards, so I pick 1 at random, then make them discard that card. So this does help a little bit with gradually killing off the players as you're trying to damage their efforts of beating you in the game. 2, you can help evil spreads. You choose one. You can either add 1 siege engine to Camelot, or draw and play the top black card. So in this case I could draw a black card. In this case it'll be a black knight. And I would probably just put it face down. I'm not going to get any white cards out of it as a trader, but they may as well not know what it is either. Yep, so that's all the different actions of being a trader. So the cool thing about this game is the fact that even when you've essentially been eliminated from the game, you're no longer one of the knights of the round table, you still have stuff you can do within the game. You're not completely taken out of the game. So that's one of the nice perks of playing this, is the fact that you're not going to be necessarily eliminated in a lot of your traditional games where you will actually be eliminated from the game once something happens. Now if you do lose all your life in this game, then that does possibly occur to where you could be, killed in it. So I mean, that's a very big overview of how the game itself plays, is all the different locations. And so it's a very cluttered game, so some people have given the input that the game's a little bit cluttered for their taste. There's so much stuff going on that some people feel like it's a little bit overwhelming, which I can kind of agree, understand a little bit. It's also hard to kind of determine if there really is a trader, since everyone's actually doing good and bad actions. If I drop another catapult, a trader might do that as well as a regular loyal person might. It's really hard to find that red flag that finally sets you apart from the rest of the group as being the trader. As an example, there's a few things I've done when I was a trader. For example, a friend of mine was King Arthur, so he handed me a special white card. My ability of my hero was that I could play a special white card for free. It does not take me an action to do so. Normally most of their players have to spend an action in order to play a white card, a special white card. So he handed this to me, and then I just held on to it for a while. Now it didn't dawn on him for several rounds that I've still yet to play that one, even though I've had the option of doing so. Because at that particular time I knew that it would be a disadvantage to me to actually play it, since we were kind of getting close to the end of the game and I didn't want them to win. So the game was still kind of close, so he was kind of on the fence of should I accuse him or not. In this particular case, there would be a little bit more that stood out as, there's a good chance he might be a traitor, but even then, it's hard to say for sure. So, otherwise, there's a lot of people that may play as if they're loyal throughout the entire game, just to flip over some black swords at the end of the game. Because once the game ends, if the traitor has not been found, then some of the white swords will become black, which can then turn the tide back over to the 7 black swords, and therefore the traitor will still win. Because a lot of the time this game is a very close call. It's usually not a decisive victory at all. A lot of times you might have 8 white swords or 9 white swords at most, and then usually black swords you can have 4 to 6 on average. So, because some of these missions are just not really worth completing sometimes, like the Black Knight. A lot of times we just let that one float, because for the most part, it's 1 white sword or 1 black sword. It's not that detrimental. In most cases, who cares really? I mean, whereas if you let the Grail fail, that's 3 black swords. That's going to hurt a lot. Now the difference is with the Grail, it does take a lot of effort to get this completed, so you're going to put a lot of resources towards making sure that gets completed, as compared to the Black Knight, which someone can solo pretty easily within a moderate amount of time. And then the Pyxis Actions, they drop siege engines if they fail, so even though they only give you 1 white sword or 1 black sword, they're also dropping 2 siege engines every time it fails, so those are a little bit more of a priority, dropping the straight than 2 of these doubles here. Because if this fails, it's a lot more detrimental than just getting that one black sword. So, you know, they have the same amount of trigger time. This only needs 4 things to trigger it. This only needs 4 things to trigger it. So it's kind of, we usually focus a lot of our efforts on the barbarians themselves, or the Grail itself, or Excalibur. Because in most cases, you're better off just going to Excalibur and discarding those cards that you would have thrown at the Black Knight instead, because Excalibur is just worth more overall. But that's the overview of the game. This should be enough information to kind of understand the game. There are probably little details you might want to check in the book. But that's really the overview of how to play the game, and how everything kind of works within it. So I do hope you've enjoyed watching the video. We will be posting some more in the near future, as far as some other games that I will be reviewing of how to play the game. We also have some prior ones that were made, like Coup, Dixit, Love Letter, Cards Against Humanity, so definitely check my channel if you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully those will be good descriptions of how to play those games as well, and that way it won't take much effort to get into the game and play it, and you can also see whether or not you enjoy the game itself. And then you can find these particular small games at like your small gaming shops, and you know, support like your local businesses. So I hope you enjoyed watching the video, and thank you for watching Rundlii Gaming, and you have a good day.